It's a tragic story, but tragically not a rare one. There was a mass shooting in Chicago. Not the only shooting in America last night, not the only shooting in Chicago last night, but this one did involve 13 victims. A shooting at Cornell Square Park at a basketball court in that neighborhood. 10 adults, 2 teens, and 1 3-year-old were victims in that shooting. Most critically injured is that 3-year-old, tragically shot in the head. Now, we do have a quote from one of the victims' uncles. Julian Harris says, "They hit the light pole next to me, but I ducked down and ran into the house. They've been coming around here looking for people to shoot every night, just gangbang and stuff. It's what they do." And we have some details. There's dispute about what sort of weapon was used. I've heard the term assault-style weapon, but they don't seem to know exactly what weapon. A gray sedan has been mentioned, but we do know at least that there were 13 victims, although thankfully no one yet has actually died from the shooting.
So it's slightly miraculous that no one died, and I just kept checking for updates on the 3-year-old to make sure he was all right, and it seems like he's going to be, which is
he's going to have major reconstructive surgery. His jaw was just shattered from this, and other people in Chicago, by the way, did die last night. There were 11 shootings in Chicago, so there were other tragedies in that city last night, but none at this.
So what's amazing is that we've gotten so used to it, since no one died, it just kind of was like, oh, 13 people shot in one incident in Chicago, another mass shooting. Oh, okay, no one died, no big deal. We're just moving on. It was like, it was a mid-sized story, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's who we are now. America is a place where there's shootings where 13 people get shot almost literally every day.
Yeah.
You know, by a definition, if you kept track of this, what they said was if 4 people get shot, not killed, the FBI definition of a mass shooting or a mass murder is if 4 people get killed in one incident. And the Reddit definition is 4 people get shot in one incident. That's what they consider a mass shooting. It's literally every day. It was 250 before the end of September in 2013, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're living it. We saw the mass shooting in the Navy Yard on Monday. We've got the mass shooting in Chicago on
amongst many
Wednesday.
other shootings, as Michael alludes to.
Right.
And many people, we're going to get to some of the tweets because we wanted to sort of give you an impression of what the country is, how the country is responding to this shooting in comparison to some of the others, and the response is interesting. But some of the immediate response was, why is the liberal media not covering this one? The problem really is not that the liberal media is not covering this. We are somewhat a part of the liberal-esque media, and we're covering it. It's that we've come to a point as a country where if we want to cover all the shootings, I don't even know if a full-hour show every day dedicated to it could cover all of the shootings, even all of the mass shootings, and give them the sort of coverage that they deserve. And we as the media are just trying to respond to the horrific level of violence that has become commonplace in America.
Not to mention the accidental shootings, which are so important to mention because that is about guns. That's about gun ownership. That's about irresponsibility. And to the point in Chicago has ironically had an amazing year compared to last year for crime. Shootings down 23%, murder down 22%, overall crime down 15%. This year, from January 1st to August 31st, is their lowest crime year in the city of Chicago since 1965.
Well, that's the lowest drop, not the lowest crime. I think it's the biggest drop. It's probably
since 1965.
Right, but it's still like among the most violent years.
I'm sorry, it's the lowest murder rate. The lowest murder rate in the city since 1965. That's what it is, the lowest murder rate. It's not the biggest drop. It's the lowest murder rate since 1965. So it's not like the most
really
improved player.
By those numbers. I didn't know.
And so this is why it becomes for Chicago a problem of messaging here, because you hear about something horrific like this. I think all of us are surprised to hear those numbers, and they're accurate, given by Garry McCarthy, numbers from the Chicago Police Department. And I think that when you hear these things, it really becomes a problem for the city of Chicago in terms of messaging the fact that we're actually doing better.
Yeah. So why don't we talk a bit about how the nation responded? We don't always do this, but I think in this case it's interesting to do so. I went through Twitter and I just searched for Chicago shooting, and this is as literally as I can be. It is an unscientific, but this is just a random sampling basically of what was tweeted out. Now, thankfully, the vast majority of what was tweeted was simply links to news articles, people expressing sympathy, but there was a healthy dose of racism and sort of political, I don't know, just being happy to be conservative in a time when liberals apparently are shooting each other. So we're going to show you examples of both of those. Now, first,
these guys are liberals. I didn't think liberals shoot.
No, they're
13
saying
people
that
at a
it's in
time.
Chicago. That this is
Right.
that's what they're basically saying. And so there's going to be a political message to this as well. But the first two tweets have the racial angle. Alex Garbrick says, "Who would have guessed there would be a shooting on a basketball court in Chicago?" As I said earlier, many people expressing sympathy. He feels like his Twitter feed is no place for sympathy in the wake of 13 people being shot.
Should have been a question mark at the end of that tweet, you fucking moron.
Okay.
Jesse Dalton.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll take anything to,
that's true.
Point out what
And
Also, there should have been spelled T-H-E-R-E.
Yeah. So at that point, with that mistake, you can't
Right.
pay attention to what he says. But Jesse Dalton says, Chicago shooting, I don't want to seem racist. This was a dispute between the Black Pea Stones and gangster disciples, damn Lithuanians.
I don't want to seem racist, except I'm going to be our president wearing an Arab headdress.
Yeah.
Now, understand, we're not trying to target these particular people. As I said, they were chosen randomly.
well, I think we should
They're
target
emblematic of a horrific trend in America right now.
If you start your sentence, I don't want to seem racist, you're about to seem racist.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it.
Nobody else-
And he's kidding.
racist-
He does want to see racist.
exactly.
That's why he
Non-racists
said
don't
damn
start their
Lithuanians.
sentences with those words.
I don't want to seem racist, but people are equal regardless of their skin color. There, I just pulled it off.
Yeah, you did.
That's a first.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that. Now, we've had many, as we've said, many mass shootings around the country. A lot of them have occurred in elementary schools and things like that, in predominantly white areas. This is in Chicago. This is an urban area. And it's just amazing to see how people's reaction to it, especially apparent conservatives' reaction, is totally different based on the race of the victims.